So welcome to the next episode of Beyond the Couch, live from the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference. Got it right that time.
Thank you.
And with me I have John Scanlon, who is the creator of this all.
Thank you.
Full creator,
Lovely to be here.
co-creator,
No, creator,
the full creator. A couple of nights ago, there was 300 odd hypnotherapists and hypnotists and change workers in a room listening to this man speak. And then suddenly the whole room went quiet. He started talking about the ripple effect.
Yeah.
And I begged him to come on this. This is something every hypnotherapist in the world needs to listen to. So please listen to this man. Joe, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a special moment actually for me, because when we go to conferences and when we talk to other hypnotherapists on a continuous basis, a lot of it is about the tools, it's about the techniques, it's about the things that bring people to this. But what we often forget about is the ripple effect of what we do. And what do I mean by that? Well, one of the reasons why this conference exists, for me, and firstly was to educate hypnotherapists, and we tick that box, okay? Mm-hmm. The second was to connect hypnotherapists, and we tick that box. But why are both of those important? The connection one in particular is because a lot of hypnotherapists work on their own. They, when they finish work and they go home, and if they have somebody to go to, that person doesn't understand what their day has been like. Because you can't, to be honest, until you've actually lived this, and not too many people do. So a room full of hypnotherapists will understand the stuff that other hypnotherapists go through, so it's a perfect place. But what we don't often talk about is the impact of what our work is. For a multitude of reasons. It could be that we don't want to be seen to be too much bigger, or, the Irish thing of have notions. We don't want to be too big for our station kind of stuff. But if you think about somebody who's anxious, who comes into your therapy room, and you help that person, what is the impact of that? I mean, even before I give you my interpretation of it, people can stop and think about, well, they go home, it's a calmer home environment. They go to work, it's a calmer work environment. And it continues out. Maybe they get involved in a local sports club or community group or whatever, and they help. Well, if you help somebody stop smoking, and their children don't accept smoking as normal now, you break an intergenerational. Yeah. If you help somebody overcome a trauma that causes, anger bursts, anger is now not normal anymore. And it just keeps going. That breaks cycles, that breaks patterns that have existed for years. And it also creates the positive, because the other side of it, and I use a lot of metaphor, it's just what I do. A picture paints 1,000 words, is if you've lived in a valley all your life, you don't know what's beyond that valley. But when you break free from that valley, there's a whole vista that's now open to you that wasn't before. So suddenly it's a whole new set of awarenesses that a calmness and a confidence would bring to your life, and the ripple effect of all of that, which all started in a therapy room. Because the client was brave enough to make the step, and the therapist was in a position to help them.
And that's it. I mean, we see the one person we help.
Yes.
We don't see how that helps their families.
Correct.
Their kids.
Correct.
Their friends. And one of the things I always say to clients, because it's something I learned, is you probably won't know the difference in yourself. It's the other people will spot it.
They notice it, yeah.
Yeah, because the hypnotherapy changes, and it did with me. It changed my behaviour. It changed my responses to certain things that were ingrained.
Yes.
But because they'd changed, I didn't really notice they changed until they were pointed out to me. And that must have affected those people around me, my friends, my family, certainly my partner. And when you just said to everyone, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to think about it, my God, that was powerful. It was very impactful.
Thank you.
So,
if I can't, at a hypnotherapy conference, get people to think about the value of their work, the impact of their work. And part of that was also about why you do that work. Who did you need to become to be the therapist? Because you were different than you were before you started this work, and every hypnotherapist is. So when you look at it in that way, you don't always recognize it, as you said. It's those around you. And I'm often speaking to clients' partners, you know, and they will say, the transformation is just amazing, you know. But the client themselves don't always see it because they've been living that change internally. But you had to change to be that person. But you don't often stop and reflect.
No.
That was one of those moments that I wanted
it was. It was a massive moment. Let's say, when I first transitioned from the hypnosis for entertainment into wellness, into therapy, if I spoke to the people I knew 30 years ago and said, I'm a hypnotherapist, I help people, they'd go, yeah, like you. But it has.
Yes.
My journey through that has changed me.
Yes.
The same as we change our clients. And it's the fact that you brought that up. You pointed out the bleeding obvious. And it's the bleeding obvious that everyone always overlooks. And let's say we're in a room, 300 people here. All the egos get left at the door. I don't think
that's the intention. I'm not a big person.
I mean, there are some egos in this inning, but very few.
Yeah.
Everyone was so giving. Everyone's so helpful. I mean, I've wanted to do these podcasts for a long time. No one has said no. They're all, yes.
Yeah.
We're all busy. We're trying to fit times in, but everyone is so giving, so gracious of the time.
Yeah.
And I've learned on every podcast.
And that's the wonder of it. That's the beauty of it.
This is why I want to do it, because I had no idea what Qigong was until this morning. But
you know, it's a really interesting thing. There's how many billions of people living on this planet? 8 billion people. Everybody has a different perspective.
Yeah.
And every client has a different perspective. So you're getting multiple different therapist views on how to approach that, which just gives you a bigger toolkit, actually.
And also, I mean, the other thing for this, I mean, the idea of these podcasts is it's not for promotion. It's to get out there what therapy can do. Talking to Beryl the other day, I had no idea. I watched my podcast with Beryl Coma on Alzheimer's, and you can use it for that. I didn't know.
Well, I mean, it's a very simple, and we're not doctors, and I always have to say that, we're not doctors, but if you think about what does hypnosis influence? It influences the mind.
Yeah.
What does your mind influence? Every part of you, every part of your existence.
Yeah.
So when you can use that and use it in a positive way, you can make changes. I'm not saying that they're going to heal everybody, but you can make changes to improve people's lives.
So I think therapists, yes, this goes out to people who avoid, but therapists never say no. Be curious. Be curious.
Okay, he's got me.
And if you don't know, just ask.
Yeah.
Ask another therapist. They'd be so willing to give
I'm
advice.
glad you said that, because that was one of the most powerful things. And I think I mentioned it at the very beginning. I think it was what I asked everybody to do. And I mentioned it at the very end, because it was something that Melissa Tears, when I interviewed her, reminded me of. Being curious means that everything is open. There is no closed roads. All roads lead somewhere.
Yeah.
Not everything is going to be for everybody, but you're never going to know if you don't actually have a look at it in the first place. So that was the intention, was to ask people to open their minds, because many hypnotherapists are trained in certain ways and they look outside that way. This weekend we had sound healing on Sunday morning. Yeah. We had hypno yoga on Saturday morning, you know, on top of all of the therapy sessions and all of the information. And I mean, most of what happens here is experiential. I mean, you know, there's a lot of demonstrations. It's one of the things I ask therapists to do, or presenters to do, is to demonstrate, because people can feel the benefit in the room. And theoretical is one thing, but to actually know something You actually need to feel it. You need to know. You know, it's interesting, even tying back into the thing of people living in a valley and suddenly, but how many clients, let's say the client comes in for anxiety, how many clients, we say, well, how do you want to feel? I don't want to feel anxious. They don't know what they want to feel beyond it because they don't know anything else. And that's what I mean about that open field. Being curious is part of that.
Yeah. John, it's been brilliant talking to you. But before I let you go, because this is all about being given and people helping advice, what one bit of advice would you give a new up-and-coming hypnotherapist that have done their training, but they're still finding their feet in the world? What bit of advice would you give them that they probably haven't learnt in the training room?
Interesting question. What's the one piece of advice I'd give a new therapist beginning that they could take, that maybe in 10 years' time they'd look back and say, I wish I knew that? I am going to say to anybody who does this that the impact that your work will have will be really powerful. And in that, you will give in more sessions. Therefore, the person that you need to mind the most and the tools that you have, you should begin to utilize on yourself. Because when you are the person who suddenly climbs to the top of that mountain and sees a new field, who do you need to become to be that person who can take advantage of it? Use your own tools on yourself as you grow, as you develop, and use your own creativity just to help as many people and in you winning in that same process.
Excellent. Good advice. Every therapist needs a mentor. Every therapist needs a therapist.
And every therapist needs to use their own tools. Self-hypnosis is a really powerful...
Is awesome. I'm going to try and get Anthony on for self-hypnosis.
Absolutely. It's a really powerful tool to use to regulate your own system, to process. I mean, when you think about retains negative emotion, I'm careful about the word trauma a lot of times so people don't accept they have it. But when you think about retain negative emotion, what is it that people are actually retaining? Emotion they haven't processed. Self-hypnosis allows us to process our own emotions. And then the community that you engage with will allow you to have those one-to-one connections that allow you to be the support for someone and that person to be a support for you or whoever. But hypnotherapists support each other and use your own tools. And let's all create a ripple that goes way beyond any therapy room, any conference, any online community that just helps.
Yeah, we spend most of our time working alone, but we are in a huge community.
Yeah,
and that community cares for each other.
It does. And even like the other thing we did yesterday was we brought Sean Michael Andrews and Hans Rudy together to give a presentation on what they had done in Ukraine. And that was the benefit of teaching medical and psychologists and various other type who were supporting war victims, I suppose, for want of a better term, injuries, so helping them deal with. That's the power of hypnosis, rippling beyond and rippling into.
Well, I'm actually hoping to get them both on one of these because they were helping the doctors, training the doctors how to help the soldiers and the injured with phantom limb pains,
but also to process the emotion behind it. And that's the key to it all.
And so you've got hypnotherapists going out in the world helping, doing stuff that money can't buy.
Correct. Helping process and also giving people back their lives. They may not have the use of a leg, they may not have the use of an arm, but they have emotional regulation. They can start to live their life from a new perspective.
And I spoke to Sean Murphy and someone had breakfast with him and I said, "When you both come on, please say a bit of
I'm sure they will." And so, we've gone beyond answering your question. We've gone into new realms.
We've gone into new realms. And I'm not even going to bother editing it because it's gold.
And despite all that, we had a huge amount of fun.
And I think my battery's going flat.
There you go.
Don't know. Started flashing. Who knows? Anyway, thank you very much for the time.
My pleasure.
Great. And I've loved it. And I'll be flying for next year.